So, you've been having some great pandemic times.
Oh, yeah. I had a wonderful quarantine. I even grew a quarantine beard.
I was going to say I didn't get to see it, but I could imagine it was... I just think of it as being just all patchy and just kind of like mange looking.
Well, it was out of control for sure, but it wasn't like patchy or gross looking. I
just see it as like... Because I can't see you as like a lumberjack, burly kind of beard kind of guy. So I just see it as like the South Park, just like kind of gluing on pubes to make it look like a beard kind of thing.
I'll drop a picture in the YouTube video.
That would be funny because I'm curious now.
If I have one. I think I have one. But yeah, I got I was very productive with my time. I put stuff on the walls. I definitely cleaned up and expanded on my room here that we're recording in.
Yeah, no, it looks amazing. Like you really put some effort into this one. Now you got all the pictures up around the ceiling. You got most of those shelves up. Those look really good too.
You can see Nancy up there now.
Yeah,
Nancy from Nightmare. If you hadn't noticed, I got enough room for one more 24 by 36 poster.
You know what you're gonna put over there?
The plan is to get a 24 by 36 Strangers Pray at Night poster and get it signed by the three of them. And it's got the sack man holding the axe.
Yeah,
and,
I remember
like the girls
that
on the
cover.
side.
Yeah,
that's what I want. So we'll see if it happens.
I'm betting that one would probably be a cheaper one to find too.
Yeah. The problem is finding it in 24 by 36 because the movie posters come out in 27 by 40 for theaters usually.
Yeah.
So, and that one's a little too big for the spot.
You could probably get away with a not so legit copy.
Yeah, I'm betting, that's the thing.
Dude, Amazon has become like the Wild West with that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I find so much unlicensed stuff on there now. Like they don't even care as long as they're making a cut of it.
Yeah. That's what my Final Destination poster is that I got just for Devin Sawa at Horror Hound because I wanted it to be the image from the movie, like the movie cover.
Yeah.
And because the theatrical one is the same picture, but it's a little weirder. Like Devin Sawa doesn't look like Devin Sawa. It's a little more like edited.
They kind of photoshopped it up a little bit. Yeah.
But it's where half their face is the skull,
I remember that one.
Light.
They kind of stole that for a newer movie. One called The Prodigy.
Yeah.
Has this little kid where, like, I think like half of his face is like a skull like that. I'm like, wait a minute.
You're like,
I've seen this before.
Final Destination. Yeah. But I got like an unofficial one off of eBay because I wanted that, or Amazon, because I wanted that very specific poster, and I love that, like the one from the Blu-ray and DVD and Blu-ray release.
Yeah.
Not like the home video release, not because back then it was VHS and DVD.
Yep.
But not the one that was in theaters, because I just like it a little more. And I'm like, if he's gonna sign it, I want them to be able to tell that it's him.
Well, it was the same thing with like his other movie, Idle Hands.
Yeah.
That one had an awesome VHS cover, but I can't for the life of me remember if it was the same as the movie poster version. But that's another one that there's a Blu-ray coming out from
I already pre-ordered
is it Shout Factory is doing that one?
Yeah, Scream Factory.
Yeah, I completely forgot about it. I might have to get on that. See if I can still get it. But that one I remember being like the go-to Devin Sawa movie. Like I liked Final Destination, but the humor in that one was just too good.
Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna have anything to do with the poster. So if you don't get a poster and you want that from me, I'll work something out. Because I don't have enough space.
I might make you an offer on that one because I like the new cover art design they made for that.
If you don't get one yourself, which is fine. I know we both watched some movies over the course of this quarantine.
We did indeed, and I guess welcome to the Knife Shift.
That's right.
This is our lead-in.
That'll be our lead-in.
We're
There
doing
you
this
go.
again, people. I bet you thought that we had been exposed to COVID and had come down with the zombie fever, never to be seen again. But luckily, here we are, back in the studio, so to speak.
I guess that could use some explanation as well, because I haven't seen you in a month.
It has been
At
a really
least.
long time. Now, I'll just get it out of the way and say, I have no idea if I had it or not. I might have had it. But that's the weird thing about this virus, is that it affects so many people differently. You never really know. Like, nobody could get tests. I know when I think I had it, I was trying to get tested, and they were basically telling me, unless you're on death's door, you're not coming in here.
Yeah.
And I wasn't that bad. I had like a messed up headache. I felt like crap for like 2 weeks straight. And I was off of work for more time than pretty much everybody else was because we got that layoff. But yeah, I mean, I could have had it, but then now it's been more than a month, so I feel comfortable going out and I'm not going to infect anybody with it.
Yeah, so the thing is that work called us all back, and we were kind of like, well, we're working with each other, right next to each other.
Right.
So why aren't we doing the night shift? So that kind of sprung into action our hiatus, or I guess a break from our hiatus.
Yes,
a break from our break.
It only took a week at work, or less than that, because we took today off.
took
We're
the
like,
day off.
Screw it, this is worth it, we're doing this.
We took the day off for you guys.
Because we love you. We love you so much.
That's true. I just want to say first off, genuinely, I'm sorry for the lack of content in a while, because I was shocked at the amount of you guys that subscribed and that were watching our videos, and then we just quit on you guys. That was not our intention.
It was unintentional.
When the COVID stuff hit, it just kind of it affected us like it affected a lot of other people, and we talked about trying to do stuff online, but it never really worked out. So, but here we are.
I
right?
think our fans are smart enough to understand that when the shit hits the fan, sometimes you got to make a couple of sacrifices. And if you were anything like us, you probably spent the majority of the time hunkered down with an industrial-sized pallet of popcorn and just watched as many damn movies as you could get your dirty little hands on. And I know that's what I did.
Can I just say that I hate that expression?
What, dirty little hands?
No. When the crap hits the fan.
The crap hits the fan? Have you ever seen...
It gives me a really gross visual every time people
you probably
say it.
haven't even seen Airplane.
I've seen parts of it.
There is literally a scene where crap hits the
That's
fan.
disgusting.
But it doesn't do what you think it's going to do. It hits the fan and just slides off.
I'm sure it's funny, but it just sounds gross.
Oh, it is, no.
Sorry, not to take away from the point of what you were saying. I know I got a sidetrack there.
No, we watched, between us, I think we watched more movies in this span of time than we normally would have. For obvious reasons. I mean, you can't really go out except to forage for food and possibly fight someone to death for the last roll of toilet paper, but that joke's been done to death for the last month. So
but it's reality.
It kind of is. I mean, honestly, did you run out of anything?
No, I did not.
I didn't either, but not to say people didn't. We live in a more rural area, so we're a little bit luckier in that respect.
I did have to do a couple of grocery trips during my time in quarantine, but that's it.
Yeah.
And I never got there and couldn't get anything.
I was the same way. Although there was one point where we had, I think, 5 rolls left, and I went to the local supermarket, just went up to that Chief's, and they did have like 5 rolls or packs of toilet paper on the shelves, and I'm like, oh, it's a miracle. And this was after like those first 2 weeks when it first started, man. Walmart was just gutted.
Yeah. Because I don't want to dwell on the COVID thing for too long, but like because I made a thing about it at work where I genuinely, we needed toilet paper at the house. We were almost out. And
No, I remember you talking about this, yeah.
but it was like right after all this hit and everyone was going crazy buying up all the toilet paper. And I'm like, I'm going to seem like one of those crazy people buying up all the toilet paper. I just need toilet paper, okay, guys?
Well, this is when having a detachable shower head really comes in handy. I mean, hey man, if you gotta do it.
We're not going there. That's all right. Do you want to start off with some of the things you watched, or you want me to start?
Yeah, you know what? How
you want to do this?
I'll list off a couple, and then we'll throw it back to you, and I'll do a couple more. But we're gonna try to keep it as spoiler free for you guys as possible, because we realize maybe you didn't see one of these movies, so we don't want to give away too much. We're just gonna hit the broad strokes, what we thought about it, maybe give it a little bit of a rating. Not too much of an in-depth review, but just to get you some idea of what we've been doing. The first one I'll talk about, I know it's going to be one that you're going to already have to chime in for, but I finally watched Urban Legend.
Yes, and
I know.
You didn't like it.
I didn't hate it. And I know I can probably talk enough about this one because everybody has probably seen this movie at this point.
Okay.
But I thought it was a little bit tacky, a little bit,
No, explain, what do you mean by tacky?
I mean,
because when you talk about horror, there's all sorts of there's levels of cheese that go into these.
There's a lot of overlap between those movies where somebody will do the same kind of thing. But this movie, it seemed like a supercut of other horror movies. Like they just came up with all these things that had been done before. And I don't realize they're urban legend.
Keep in mind that this movie is 20 years old.
And it is, yeah. there were parts that I honestly enjoyed. I thought the Pop Rocks and Coke thing was kind of funny.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff was done pretty well, but then I'm a gun nut, so whenever it came to the scene with the Beretta that she's holding on the guys, and I'm like, there were 5 different ways to die already in that scene, and somehow nobody got killed.
But then you also understand that it's a story. So then, by the end, well, granted, we had a disagreement on that.
Yeah. You kind of thought it was a...
So spoilers for Urban Legend. If you haven't seen it, it's an old movie, but I get it. Some people don't want to know. So I'm about to spoil it. So the ending, it cuts to, dang it, what's her name? Sasha.
Yeah.
No, Sasha's the one that works in the radio station. I'll come up with it in a second. Natalie's the main character. Brenda. It's Brenda.
Brenda Bates.
Yeah.
Brenda Bates. Yeah, I mean, are we going with... is this a play off of We Should Have Known it was her all along because of Patrick Bates from or no, that was I'm thinking of Norman Bates.
Yeah.
I always get Norman Bates and Patrick Bateman are really close in my head.
I know, they're so close. What were we talking about? Oh, yeah, so the ending, Brenda. It cuts to her sitting in a college, what would you call the
like a common area.
Yeah, and they're all sharing the story. But the way that it pans out, it's it all happened. It's not like it was a dream. It happened, but to what extent were details
shared with the public?
Well, to what extent were details exaggerated? Because when people tell stories, that's what we do as storytellers.
So you kind of think entire movie?
I think the entire movie was retold, and we're getting the retelling. But I don't think that things start exaggerating intentionally until the end, and people are like, wait. And then when it's the reveal and it backs out and the guy's like, and they never found a body. And then Brenda is still there, so obviously Brenda was real and Brenda did it. But to the extent of the details of she falls out of a building and she's still alive, and then how is she in the car, and then to that extent, I think those are people trying to tell, they play on the whole storytelling element.
It would have been more obvious to me that that's what they were doing, is if the ending scene, when it opened up into it had shimmery dream sequence thing, it was coming out of someone telling a story, then I would have been like, okay, I know what they're doing now.
That's cheesy though.
I know, but the whole movie was cheesy. You want to talk about cheesy? Let's talk about Officer Reese Wilson.
You don't like Reese?
The badass female security guard that this is what I really wanted to say to you, because I just remembered this, and this is the part that the movie like kind of died for me at this
Foxy
point.
Cleopatra.
Because I know they must have used her as the basis for the character in Scream Queens.
Oh, they did. And I want to stop you right there real quick. Don't forget what you're saying.
Okay.
There's a slight spoiler, but not really. She returns in the sequel. She's the only reoccurring character in the sequel.
Okay.
So allegedly she got fired because she refused to keep quiet on everything that happened, and then gets reassigned. She's in the sequel. There's a scene in the sequel where the main character for Urban Legend Final Cut is walking, and she pulls up. She's a security guard, and the dialogue from that scene, actually that whole scene is redone and like ripped off from intentionally and put into Scream Queens, where she pulls over Zayde.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Where are you going, girl? At this hour, get in." That's from Urban Legend.
Okay.
So like, yeah, they definitely play off of that.
That's funny. No, it was okay. Towards the end of the movie in Urban Legend, Officer Wilson, we'll call her, was throughout. Okay, the 3/4 point, maybe halfway point, she starts carrying a gun, and she's had this gun for a good amount of the movie. It's like a smaller, like subcompact 9mm. I want to say maybe a 380. It's not too big, but it's a handgun. You know, they pretty much do the same damage until you start getting up into 45, 50 cal. So towards the very end of this movie, she's like, "Oh, shit's getting real. I gotta go bust out the big gun." So she unlocks a gun case and pulls out a Beretta 92 FS. It's, for those that can't see me, pretty much everyone, I'm making, measurements with my hands. It's about this big. It's just a bigger gun. But it fires the same bullets as the gun she already had. So what the hell was the point of that? She already had a gun. Mind you, she probably would have had a better time having the smaller gun because you have less of a chance of having it taken away from you from a bad guy when you don't have this giant gun in your hand that they can just grab, which is pretty much exactly what happens in the movie. No, I was yelling at my screen while I was watching this because it was like the gun sin of the movie. I'm like, what are you doing? But I'll digress and just say, it was an okay movie. Yeah. If I was going to give it a rating, I'll throw it a strong 5 out of 10. I know I'm a little bit leaning towards it being cheese, but but it was tasty cheese. I'll give it that. It was okay.
It's I don't know. There's just, granted that I grew up on it. It's like the Joshua Jackson, and he like turns on the car and the Dawson's Creek song plays. Like, oh god. Like Michael Rosenbaum. I love Michael Rosenbaum. And Mikey likes it. And that's what he signed my Urban Legend poster. He wrote that on there for me. Yeah. And I don't know. I met him and Alicia Witt now, but I want to get as many of them to sign it as I can.
That's a pretty good one to get to. I'll just move on from here from the Urban Legend. One of the other ones I watched that was a classic that you're like, oh, how did you like that one? Yes, I finally watched House of Wax. And I did not realize it just had a birthday. I guess it just turned like 20 years old or something like that, or maybe 15 or 16 years old.
I was going to say, if that one turned 20, that one came out after Urban Legend.
It's been a little bit. I know the anniversary of its release just came up because another podcast that I follow, shout out to Nightmare on Film Street, like they just threw up something on Twitter about that. So I just like, oh yeah, I just watched that movie.
I'm going to throw out a dumb question, but I genuinely don't know. Is that a remake or is that an original?
It uses the same name as another movie from a long time ago.
But changes
it has almost nothing other than it involves wax figures. Everything in the story got changed.
Okay. So is that an original, or do you count it as a remake?
I think they still have to say that it's a remake. You could say reimagining.
Okay.
I would just say that, yeah, it's a rehash of not exactly the same story, but the same kind of concept about wax figures being creepy as shit, which they totally are. It was a decent movie. I would say I actually liked that one a little bit more than urban legend, but
Yeah.
not so much that I'm gonna run out and buy a copy. It's just, it was a fun watch, and I'll admit, just like I said to you, I watched it to watch Paris Hilton get killed
Yeah.
because I really wanted to see the payoff there, and it was explicit. I
Yeah.
will say that. I mean, I should have saw it coming that she was going to die in
Was
some
that
kind
a
of
pun? Was that an awful pun? Is that too far?
Honestly, there were parts in that movie why I liked it a little bit more than Urban Legend that I did not see coming.
Yeah.
Like the part where I forget her name, but she's like the main final girl that went to the little town, to try and find like the mechanic with her boyfriend, and she is trying to.
Mr. Jared Padalecki.
She's already been abducted by the guy, by one of the two brothers, by like the more evil one that it turns out to be. Is like the good looking one's the more evil one, but she gets like abducted by this guy and is being like held down below, gets her mouth glued shut. It's a weird scene, but then she kind of breaks free when her other buddy shows up, and she's trying to get his attention by like gripping through the sewer grate. And I did not see that coming, where he just bends down and just clip, like,
Oh, that's awful.
Oh
yeah.
my god, that was a little graphic.
I'm wincing over here just to give you guys a visual.
Yeah, that one it caught me off guard. But there's not a lot of movies that can do that anymore. Like, I saw it coming, I'm like, oh, she's gonna retract. She's not gonna. Ooh, it happened.
That's one that when that came out, not a lot of people liked it. I feel, at least personally, I feel like in school, because I was in school when that came out, a lot of people were like, that's dumb. But I watched it and I didn't understand why people were like that. I really enjoyed it.
I think it was the characters.
Yeah.
I think it was really hard to like the characters that they gave you in that movie, and it made it hard to put yourself in their shoes.
Yeah.
Because by the end of it, I'm pretty much like the rest of the audience that was watching it out there. I'm just waiting for these fuckers to die.
Yeah.
I just want to see how they get it, because there's some annoying, I don't know, college, end of high school, senior kind of thing.
I don't know, like high school kids that were cast way too old.
Like two of them.
I don't know.
Two of them were just jocks.
It's been too long since I've seen it. I remember things about them, like scenes and things, but I don't remember names or ages.
Well, we'll cut to the quick of this movie just having one of the most phenomenal ending sequences I've seen in a movie in quite some time, and that's shocking to me that it was like I hadn't heard that much about this movie other than, hey, there's another horror movie. It has Paris Hilton in it, and everyone's like, ugh, I don't want to watch that. But then those special effects at the end, man, that was killer. To see that whole house of wax, literally, is like you should say, the titular house of wax.
You don't want to get into too spoilery territory, but like...
So I'll cut it off there, but just saying, that one's worth a watch.
Yeah. I just want to point out, because the most popular name now would be Jared Padalecki, who went on to do Supernatural for like freaking 20 years. They never stopped. They're about to end it at 15. But he was... There's a couple horror films that he did before he really got his popularity in Supernatural. But that scene with him at the piano is just... That sticks with me. I don't know
harsh.
why.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to get into too big a spoiler territory, but like, that's the scene that I brought up to you when you said you watched it. I'm like, oh, that scene, huh?
That's my big takeaway from that movie. I did not expect it to be as effects heavy as it was, and I guess dumb me. I mean, House of Wax, you would think there's probably got to be some effects in there somewhere, but I didn't think it was going to be as like violent as it turned out to be. So yeah, not a bad flick.
That's 2 movies from my generation. What are you doing over there, Jonas?
I mean, we haven't even talked about... I'll save the other one, unless you really want to dive right into it that I talked to you at work about.
It's up to you. We're here now.
All right, let's talk about it. I watched 13 Ghosts again.
13 Ghosts.
This movie did not hold up very well over time. I gotta say, I love Matthew Lillard Love the shit out of that guy. SLC Punk is one of my favorite movies. He was great in Scream. He's been great in a lot of things. I mean, even in Hackers, he was one of the best characters in that movie.
I haven't. Hackers just seemed...
Oh, it's dated as hell. It's dated, but it's still fun. Like, to watch that movie is just a pure comedy now. Like, it has no stakes. Like, it's just absurd. But, oh man, the 13 Ghosts, that was probably his worst role.
Really?
Yeah, I gotta say it. And like I said, I love him as an actor. I just think maybe he got bad direction. It was probably a crappy script. But his whole character is basically just wincing and getting migraines and then yelling.
Yeah.
That's pretty much the only acting he does in that movie.
That's what he does, man. He gets migraines.
You watched SLC Punk.
Yeah,
he can do good acting.
That's on my list. That's one of the movies I watched over quarantine.
We'll have to talk about that here in a little bit. But I'm just going to say 13 Ghosts. Holy crap, I remember it being a lot better than it turned out to be. And you know, this was like the first DVD made. This was like the first DVD you saw in all the shops and video stores back in like 99.
You know, if you talk to Matthew Lillard in person, it's funny. I don't want to hate on the movie because granted I haven't given it a rewatch in a while. I feel like I would still enjoy it.
I would still enjoy it. But you're gonna pick some things apart you probably didn't before.
Matthew Lillard always says that. He's like, I don't understand why people like that movie so much. It's a terrible movie. So like he doesn't think the movie is good.
See, I didn't know that before we got into this conversation, so I'm glad I came down on the side of Matthew Lillard on that one.
He autographed a 13 Ghosts photo for Leanna at we already talked about it on here at Motor City Nightmares, and he wrote ghosts, not goats.
That line from the movie.
Yeah, that's the line that he
there's
signed
goats in the house. Ghosts,
not goats, or not goats, ghosts. Well, however he says it.
Excuse me.
Yeah,
but yes, that movie. Oh my god, it's just. So many things with it are just off the wall. I don't understand.
It's a very creative idea, though, and I see why so many people liked it.
It's a good idea.
And all the different, like the collecting of these tortured ghosts and souls. If that would be one, granted, I know how people take, remakes, but that would be one that, or if it got the Netflix treatment or something.
Oh, it's a series.
And 13 episodes, 13 ghosts.
Oh, that would be great.
Do an episode that's on the different ghosts and build from there.
I would definitely go for that.
That would be wonderful, wouldn't it?
It would be much better than having it be, you were the 13th ghost all along. But then Matthew Lillard dies and suddenly there's 14 ghosts, or...
But he wasn't collected. He wasn't one of the...
Look, I don't make the rules. The title was... And look at how it's spelled. Seriously, look at how this is spelled. It's spelled THIR13EN Ghosts. It's like they saw the movie Seven and how that title was spelled and said, "Hey guys, I want that as my title."
Well, sure, that's what movies do. They inspire each other.
They didn't inspire him enough.
Okay. Yeah, and enjoyable, I'm sure it is. I'm sure it's cheesy.
And of course, as any other 90s, late 90s horror movie, it ends on a rap song. For no reason whatsoever. Just suddenly hip-hop jams start coming out as soon as the ghosts are all dead.
What does Scream end on? Do you know?
Yeah, it ends on kind of a low-key soft rock kind of song.
Yeah.
But it's like it's a good ending for it because it's like calming, like it's all over.
Yeah.
We might have to look that up during one of the if we have a break here and see what song that was. But I'm pretty sure it was a softish kind of rock song.
The one thing that I do recall from 13 Ghosts that I was like, that doesn't make sense. Well, the turn of the lady who is working for the forces of good, but then, oh, nope, she's working with... Yeah. That always felt forced. I'm like, what are her motives for the switch? Like, I guess she was into it. That's, I don't know, I'm not buying it.
Was her boyfriend in on it too?
But, well, right, when was the switch? Was it after he died? Or was it, was she pretending that in the opening?
We'll never know.
But other than that, I did always wonder, because they make the family out to be really, like, oh, this is a really poor family. They're really struggling in this apartment, like this small apartment. But they have a nanny.
Right.
Like, I don't know how things are where you guys are from, but, around here, if you're really poor, you can't afford a nanny.
Right.
Like,
was she live in? Because she was talking about, I think she was talking about picking out one of the rooms, too.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, that might be something that I just don't understand how things work, because that's not how things work around here. Maybe it's different in the city.
Okay, final thing I'll say about this movie, and I think it's kind of hilarious that we all gloss over this fact. That movie was 100% nothing happened. Because there was no story arc. They ended exactly where they began. They didn't get the house. They didn't have anything. Like, everything was tied in with the house. The house is gone. So they're all just leaving and going back to the apartment after this.
Well, Monk had closure for his wife's death.
That's pretty much all we got. Was that they got to say goodbye.
But they're like, well, now we're poor again.
Yeah.
Time to try.
It's just like, I'm sorry, but we can't have a nanny anymore.
Maybe there was insurance on the house.
Well, that's all going to be gone with the insurance money they have to pay off for Matthew Lillard's family.
That's not...
I mean, how many people just died in that house?
Well, their lawyer died, so now
now they're screwed.
Now they gotta find someone.
That's like Jurassic Park. The lawyer dies. Oh well.
He was over the top evil too, wasn't he?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm an evil lawyer. Hope the ghosts don't get me. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, where's the lawyer? He's split. Like, oh, really? Such a dumb joke.
That's intentional, though. You can tell that's intentional, right?
Oh, yeah. No, it's supposed to be. That's what made me, think, what is this movie trying to be? Is it trying to be corny? Is it trying to be serious some of the times? It's such a weird mutant of a movie.
Yeah.
But, yeah, watch 13 Ghosts again and get a laugh out of it.
Or don't and watch Ghost Ship, because it's, in my opinion, better. And those were like the rival films that
they came out around
the same time.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it was like those were the two big horror films that people were talking about, Ghost Ship and 13 Ghosts. I'm like, well, Ghost Ship. But I do enjoy them both. So go ahead if you had something else.
Oh, I've got a ton more. Let's do
They're
one of
probably
yours.
sick of hearing about 13 Ghosts. Oh. Okay, so I will just quickly say, since we brought it up, that I wasn't going to talk much about it because it's not a horror film, but you let me borrow SLC Punk, and I kept putting it off, and I did eventually get around to watching that during the quarantine.
Was that not a great movie?
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, it was enjoyable. It's such a downer, but...
Yeah, we don't want to spoil it for anybody that hasn't seen it, but it's basically a movie about being a punk in the 80s in Salt Lake City, where there were no punks. So basically, two guys that are best friends, Steve-O and Bob, they live in what looks like a crack den that's just beat up, and they have no jobs, they have no source of income, they just barely survive. And it sounds like a hell of a downer movie, but it's also pretty damn hilarious. I think every time Matthew Lillard goes on one of his rants about this is why this is this way, and this is actually America, and this is why we fight rednecks. And
what would you call the genre? What is, like, because there's movies like that where it's like, what's this movie about? Well, it's not really about anything. It's just these people.
I would say
just drama.
Dramedy.
Dramedy,
I think it's its own subcategory, comedy drama, because there are drama parts in it, but it's mostly some comedy kind of stuff. But then, you have, oh god, what was his name? The guy that likes to go steal cars with him and sells them weed.
Yeah.
God, it's been so long, I forget what his name was.
I can't tell you.
But yeah, Mark. Yeah, it was just Mark. And he just, like, sells them pot, and then he's just like, hey, let's go steal a car. And he's just this weird East German, like, nobody knows where he came from. Just somehow he's a millionaire. He doesn't need to be a drug dealer, but he just has fun with it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of characters like that in this movie.
And Devon Sawa was in it. So it's all coming full circle. And
can't even talk about what happens to him.
Well, I kind of want to. I'll try not to spoil stuff, but, like, because I guess without getting too into it, I was pretty straight edge in school, and I don't do drugs. I don't even drink. So I just remember asking a friend of mine that I knew did stuff, or had in the past. It's like, is that even possible? Because there's some stuff with acid, and I was like, can it affect you, like, just through any part on your body, like through the skin? And, like, they were like, yeah, like, that's possible.
The way they play it in the movie is 100% accurate.
Yeah.
Like, that would happen if those circumstances all led one into another, and you can end up like that.
Yeah.
Like, it's happened to people, but it takes like the amount like he had, like you would go nuts and you might not come back.
Yeah.
But that's
messed up.
Yeah, that's the risk.
That's
also why people put it in plastic bags and don't just have it loose in their pockets.
But, like, the reality of that film is what makes it great, but it's also what makes it so, like,
kinda
heavy.
haunting. Yeah.
So yeah, I did watch that. A couple other non-horror things. I did finish The Watchmen, the TV series, and at one point I was kind of like, do I want to keep watching it? Because I liked it, but it wasn't as... I love the Zack Snyder movie, and I know that's controversial to say in
itself. If you
itself.
say that to huge Watchmen fans, you're like, you don't like the Watchmen.
Right. Well, like, I like the Zack Snyder movie a lot. I like those characters, and I was expecting kind of a reimagining of that story in the series, and then when it came out, it was still cool. It was the aftermath, so, like, those characters weren't in it. Not more or less.
I will admit, I got 5 episodes in and I bailed.
I decided I was gonna stick it out around episode 4. I think is when I was like, do I want to keep? I'd watched like 2 or 3, but it got really compelling again within the last 3 episodes or so. I was like, okay, I don't want to stop. I want to see what happens.
Can I just say why? I mean, it's really hard to even make this statement in 2020 and not sound evil.
Okay.
But why was it so much about racism? Like, that seemed like the whole
that
show.
That was the theme.
Yeah.
Of the series.
They're just like, everyone's yelling at their listening devices right now. That's the point.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I like to be creative, but I'm not very creative. Know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I feel like they just get an idea of what they want to tell and they tell it. Like, and then I guess it either resonates with people or it doesn't.
Yeah, for most of the comments from people I was reading online, it was getting a lot of hate.
Was it?
But then, I mean, how much of that is legit, and how much of that is people from, like, 4chan and a bunch of places that are just already racist that are coming in to start bashing the show?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a big mess. I like the universe. I like Damon Lindelof a lot. I'm a really big Lost fan. And I know a lot of people hated Prometheus. I liked Prometheus.
That was an underrated movie.
I was excited. I'm glad that I stuck it out and finished it because the ending was really good. And by the end of it, I was kind of getting attached to the characters. Like, oh, these guys are cool.
You'll have to tell me what it is when we get off a mic so we don't spoil it for anybody.
And I did hear there was some controversy about Dr. Manhattan. Because I saw a picture.
I posted a meme about that one. That was when I checked out of the show.
But to be fair, it makes 100% context in the show.
That they turned him into a black guy?
Yes. Yes. It might sound dumb, but it makes 100%. sense. Like it's not like a recasting choice. Like let's just do this for like he physically turns himself into that. Like it's a choice for him. Like because he can change. He's Dr. Manhattan. He can do whatever he wants.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's not like they're changing the character we know, because he is still the character that we know. And they even give his backstory a little bit, and he's like a little German boy. I think he was German. So it's like because it's not changing the things that I know already about it, I didn't have a problem with it. But I was kind of confused going in because I had seen something about that and tried to look away so I didn't get it spoiled, but like the damage was done. And I was like, wait, but that doesn't make sense because here he is now.
The two things I just want to say quick about it is the meme somebody made where they made him look like Squidward was amazing.
Okay.
You got me laughing so hard, you beautiful person out there. And two, the Dr. Manhattan bedside playset that the one woman has at some point in the show.
What?
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Okay.
Don't want to say.
You know who that is, right?
Yeah. It
Okay.
was the woman from like the first Watchmen movie.
Yeah, it's Silk Spectre.
Yeah.
Okay.
So she still had a little thing for him, after all these years.
Yeah. I don't know. Like after it's settled, I really enjoyed it. And even just you talking about that, like I think I really liked it. Like,
I just liked it for the scenes that had what's his name, Ozymandias, trying to escape. I thought that was if it was just that arc as the show, I probably would have watched it more because that was fun.
And that whole thing when that like the what am I trying to say?
The clone.
The conclusion of that arc is really good too.
I just saw the moon part whenever he was launching the clones.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is nuts.
And they got those little stations where people can like call up to Dr. Manhattan and leave messages and like it was good. I talked about that more than I thought I was gonna. Sorry guys. But what else do we have here? I just want to bring up some other shows that I watched. I in its entirety, I did binge watch The Boys.
Oh, finally.
In its entirety. That one was
not one of the best series.
That was really good. Like I couldn't stop watching it.
As soon as you get to that first episode with Fast Man, or I forget what his name was.
Dang it! I know what it is.
It's been
A-Train.
A-Train, yeah. You get the part with the main character's girlfriend having a run-in with A-Train. You're hooked.
Yeah.
Like you can't stop watching after that. You're like, what did I sign up for?
And it's so dark, but I love how it plays on the culture and popularity of superhero
Right.
stuff.
This is like if superheroes were a real thing, this is exactly what it would be.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be like Marvel and Disney-fied version. Like they're not all going to be like super nice like Captain America. I just do what's right. No, they're just going to be out for themselves.
I mean, yeah. I don't think I buy into it 100% that like, oh, that's how it would be, because there's different factors you have to take in.
Remember this quote. Unlimited power corrupts absolutely. This has been like throughout all of human history. As soon as you give someone all the power,
right,
they're going to become evil.
But
like it always happens.
It's even something that's brought up in the show, again, without going too much into it. But there's no supervillains in the show. There's only superheroes. So there's there's no check and balance, like.
But I think that's what The Boys are starting to represent going into season 2, without giving away too many spoilers. But Invisible Man, that whole diamond guy thing, that was a great story arc.
Yeah,
like we've got him. Now what?
Yeah, it was good. I can't wait for season 2 on that. And then I did watch. So did you. We both watched season 3 of Ozark.
Oh, yes.
You said that you were might be done with the show after 3. You really didn't like it?
it just it felt like another rehash
Yeah.
of the same kind of story. I mean, I get that's what the story's about, but it just felt weaker than the last two seasons. Not as much was really happening. We're kept on, I'm gonna turn this FBI agent, and then does virtually nothing to do anything along those lines other than try to hand her some stuff, and she just says no all the time.
I do think that arc was kind of fruitless for me. I didn't really get into that. I thought that the new character they added in the season, Wendy's brother.
Yeah,
I really liked.
He was a fun character.
Yeah.
Until the end.
Yeah. We don't want to spoil some stuff, but yeah, he does do some questionable things at the end. But not so much just like, oh, I was really into his character, but just like that whole arc as a whole and what it did for the show. I really like that addition.
Do you ever remember them mentioning him in the other two seasons? Was he completely written in, or
I'm
did
sure
they
he was
sneak
completely
something in?
written in.
Yeah, because I don't ever remember her.
She might have said something in passing about growing up with her brother.
Go back and just like, I bet if we just did a deep dive on a Wikipedia, we could probably find somebody's already figured this out.
But I had the opposite effect. Like that was another one that I was really drawn to. Like I didn't want to quit watching it. I thought it was really compelling.
You know what it was for me? I think I figured it out. Was because of a show that I watched. It was before the pandemic stuff happened, but it was another show that had Jason Bateman in it.
Yeah.
It was The Outsider.
I haven't watched that yet.
That was an excellent series.
I do want to start that soon.
I will say it was about maybe 2 episodes longer than it needed to be.
Yeah.
They padded it a little bit, but for what the show was really about and that ending for it,
I want it to be as obscure as possible.
Oh, I won't say a word. Okay. Trust me. I want you to go into this as blind as I did and just wonder what the hell you're watching after like the first 10 minutes.
That's the idea. And that is Stephen King, right?
Yes.
So, granted, it's really hit or miss. I know we got off subject a bit. We'll lead back into the horror here, but I did watch The Tall Grass, which was a Stephen King movie.
I think I saw that advertised on Netflix.
It's on Netflix.
Yeah.
There are parts to that are kind of impressive, but I really didn't get into it. Like, I don't know why. It seems like it would be up my alley.
I didn't watch that one, so I can't really comment. It didn't look that interesting to me.
It really wasn't. Like, I think it's just it all takes place in this tall grass. And the title should have told me that, but for some reason I didn't picture the whole movie taking place in this tall, like, so it's a lot of people running around lost in this tall grass this whole movie, and I was like, okay. But it's got Patrick Wilson in it, and I don't know. It's,
you know what it makes me think of? Netflix was hoping lightning was going to strike twice with a Stephen King story that's set in one location.
Gerald's Game. That was good.
That was a great movie. They did an awesome job converting that over.
You're not real. You're only made of moonlight.
Oh, man.
That's great.
Just like the courtroom scene in that one, too. That one's just memorable. But yeah, I can see them trying to be like, hey, well, it worked before.
Well, and they did that 1970. Am I wrong?
You're thinking of the Hulu series.
No, there was another movie with Thomas Jane on Netflix. It was a Stephen King one. I didn't get to watch it, but Leanna watched it, and she said that, granted, take it with a grain of salt, it's someone else's opinion, but she said that it was pretty underwhelming. But it's about a farmer and his son, and like their crops start dying or something.
I'll have to look into that one.
It's Thomas Jane, but I don't know. I was going to watch that one, and then she watched it without me, and so I was like, well...
Speaking of Thomas Jane, I did rewatch The Mist, but that one is one of the most depressing movies ever made, so we don't have to talk about it.
No, The Mist is great. And it's made from the original showrunner.
The short story that was written by Stephen King that was in, I want to say it was either the Night Shift collection or Minutes Past Midnight.
Yeah, one of those. I have them both.
Yeah, so do I. I know they're packed away somewhere, but his short story collections were always great. But he took, Frank Darabont, the director, came up with a script that was about 2 hours long from a 30-page story. So the way he fleshed this thing out with evil Mrs. Carmody, oh man, she is one of the best villains in almost any horror movie.
Is that the Angela character?
Yes. And you guys aren't going to know who we're talking about, and that's probably a good thing. But there's a woman in this grocery store that they all take refuge when the mist hits that is a little bit of a Jesus freak, I think is the most generous term to use. And before the end of the whole tribulation they're going through, decides that the only way to appease their new gods, or no, she still thinks it's the god that's putting them all through this, decides they have to start sacrificing people.
Yeah.
And then decides, oh, we'll just give them one a day and that'll make the monsters go away. So they just start feeding the things.
It's really messed up, but there's there's somebody we work with, and I could see this person 100% doing this. That's why it's so
That's
surreal.
Why when that scene where
spoiler
Ollie finally just ends up shooting her, just like, thank you, you could have done that
Spoilers.
2 days ago, saved 3 lives.
Yeah.
But that's one of the movies that I have to give credit to, because they get guns 100% right.
Yeah.
They got it with that revolver. I mean, it's a small arms. It's not gonna blow something apart like in some of the other movies that I've seen. And they figured out, like, hey, guns run out of bullets too. Like, there's a limited ammo supply here. And they even do the smartest thing I've seen in any horror movie. They go, all right, we've got a gun. Does anyone know how to use it? They don't just, the strong guy just doesn't come up and go, I'll take it, and I'm gonna, like, that's 99% of movies. That's Mist, great. They actually ask the crowd, like, hey, we really need a good shot. And Ollie steps up. He's like, yeah, I can shoot it. And of course his manager's like, Ollie, come on, get out of here. And he's like, I was state target champion for 2 years in a row. And he just like instantly loads the gun and just like, okay, yeah.
That's great. And that's another little character nod, like he didn't pay any attention to his employee or like know anything about him, and that's great. Yeah, like that's what I'm saying. King can be really good, but he likes to take a group of strangers and put them together in a situation, and like a life or death situation, and then let them go.
That movie is really timely now, because I think you could make the argument. Listen, I wasn't even going to talk too much about it, but I think you could make the argument that the grocery store represents America right now.
Yeah.
With the 2 factions, and neither one believe it. Like, one of them, I won't say like one side is
like
right.
Politics or what?
Like that kind of whole thing right now. And I definitely don't want to get into that on this show. But it seems like that's what like America is like right now. Like, there's one side that's convinced that something is going on, and the other side is just like, you guys are making this up. I think you guys are wrong. But, you're just trying to scare us by saying all this stuff. It's weird how it's tribal. It's like, we're on our side, you're on your side, and we've like set a line down the middle. Like, throughout the movie, there's people that defect to like the side that thinks that God's gonna save them, and it's funny to see this happen. Like, a lot of them, they were 100% on the side of, hey, we need to do something proactive, we need to figure this out, but then they just lose it. It's been too long in that store, and they're just like, expiation.
Yeah. It's a good one. When fiction is at its best, when it mirrors reality.
Right.
So
you could really see something like that happening.
Yeah. Especially when it's in your characters and character motives. So yeah, The Mist is great. And it's weird to me that Tallgrass did something very similar, but I just didn't get into it. So I don't know.
I gotta talk about this because this was a real surprise for me. You have to watch this movie. I'm going to get you to watch it. It's called The Lodge. And a lot of people are sleeping on this movie right now.
Lodge. That sounds familiar.
Don't sleep on this one. You have to watch it. If you're a fan of Hereditary, Midsommar, those kind of movies.
Oh god, it's a slow burn.
Oh,
it's a slow burn movie that's gonna haunt my dreams.
It's not. I wouldn't put it in the same category exactly because it's not gonna haunt you. There is some stuff in there that's pretty hard at times to watch, but it's really just one of those movies where you're just the whole time you're like, okay, is this happening? Is this not happening? What is going on here? And you really don't get the explanation till like the last 10 minutes of the movie. But okay, broad strokes, the broadest of strokes, because I don't want to give you too much. A pair of kids are living with their father, and his new girlfriend is now a fiance, like soon to be wife.
Okay.
And they're all going together to stay at the family lodge that's out in the middle of nowhere, wintry. I think it's around Christmas time setting movie. It doesn't have too much to do with Christmas, but it's around that time of year. They all go out there, and the dad has to go back to the city for work for like 2 or 3 days. So the three of them are alone in this lodge. And there's already tension because they don't like her. She's not mom, but she's going to be their new mom. And she has, I'll just say, a questionable past that's really weird.
So she's a vampire.
No.
I'm just throwing that. I don't want to
say that there's nothing supernatural about this movie because that goes into the realm of spoiler territory.
It sounds like a good setup, though.
Oh, it is excellent. And the ending payoff, man, that stuck with me for a couple of days. Like, I couldn't believe that's really how they ended that movie. And that's what I give them, like, 2 big thumbs up to the makers of that movie that dared to take a chance on something that's really, most people in mainstream Hollywood, this movie would never happen. Like, they would never make a movie like this. But they gave us some really memorable scenes in this movie. And going into those even would be spoiler territory. So I won't. But I plead with you, watch The Lodge. Pay for it. Go see it. Get it on demand. I'm sure you can find it.
So it's new?
Yeah.
Like it's in theaters new?
Well, in theaters. I mean, what's in theaters?
So like if theaters were still...
If theaters were around, it would probably be showing like The Lighthouse did. I would imagine it would be in like spotty here or there, probably in a lot more art house kind of independent cinemas.
Okay.
I don't think you'd catch it in an AMC, maybe, but you can definitely get it on Amazon. You can get it on demand. So I think it's like $3.99 or $5.99 to rent. Strong recommendation. Check out The Lodge.
Okay, that does sound like something I kind of want to check out.
Yeah, you and Leanna would love that one.
I also want to see Antlers, which didn't make it out because of all the mess.
Yeah, I did not see anything for that movie around.
And that's one that... Go into it without watching the trailers because they show too much. But Antlers looks good. And it's got that actor that plays Todd in Breaking Bad is like a cop.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
I want to see it. Yeah. Now, I'll skip ahead to my next newer movie that I watched, Gretel and Hansel.
Okay.
I went into this not knowing what to expect. I mean, we think we've all seen the story before.
Like, you didn't go into it expecting
the witch
in
the house, and yeah. I mean, yes and no, because from what small things that I've heard online, it was a little bit different. The setup with the name itself should tell you a little bit that it's more centered on Gretel, and Hansel is kind of like, I wouldn't say like an ancillary character. Like he's still part of the plot, but he doesn't matter near as much as she does. It's mainly her movie. And when they finally get to the witch's house, and you see what it looks like, I had strong The Void callbacks.
Dang.
Because her house looks like the triangle thing from The Void. Like, it's strong resemblance. And I think that might have been intentional because they wanted to give it that really dark look. I mean, it is literally a black house in the middle of nowhere. So unless you're like them and you're like dying of starvation, you're probably not going up to that house.
See, when you said it's like the void, I just picked... So it's like hell. No, I'm just like
We're in hell.
picturing awful body parts hanging everywhere and like half torso creatures.
It
Oh, my
never
gosh.
gets that bad.
I'm just traumatized still from the void.
Oh, I love that movie. I did watch that again over the break, but I mean,
Of course you did.
that's just one of my comfort movies. I go back to that and just, oh, The Void.
A comfort movie.
I love you so much. I even bought the vinyl when we were on that excursion to the possibly last con we'll ever go to.
It says a lot about our horror preferences because I really liked the cult stuff with the creepy
Yeah.
triangle people standing around out there and being weird, but I just didn't get into the weird body horror.
I understand. Not everybody wants to watch, movies like that or, what is it? The Brian Yuzna movie, Society. And not everybody wants to see the shunting. But for those of you who know what the shunting is,
Well,
you're my people.
You brought it up on our last podcast, was Society.
Oh yes, but there's people out there that are really gonna like Gretel and Hansel. I thought it was decent. If I was gonna give it an out of 10 rating, I'd probably give it a 6, maybe 6.5.
So it's better than Urban Legend.
It's
setting the
better
bar
than
high.
Urban Legend.
That's setting the bar high.
But one of the reasons I really liked it was it seemed period accurate. Like they didn't stray too far away from what life really would have been like in like 17 or 1800s. Maybe it was even earlier than that, maybe 15 or 1600s. It seemed really early, like I'm pretty sure it was Germany, some place like that, but nobody has an accent. Everybody's just speaking English, so it's kind of hard to tell. But I think it was originally a German story. But if you get a chance, give it a look. And bonus information, if you're a vinyl collector like we're becoming, if you go to Waxworks Records, they have the soundtrack.
Yeah.
And actually, if you're listening to this shortly after we post it, you might want to hit them up because they're doing a hell of a sale right now. A lot of the stuff that I've been having my eye on, yeah, they're dropping $5-10 on some of the records.
Dang. I really need that. I don't know if they have it anymore. I haven't looked in forever. And the way things sell out on there, they probably don't. But I wanted to get the Babadook.
They might have they restocked a lot of stuff.
Did they?
Yeah, you might be able to score that one.
And I never did pick up the Child's Play one, which was on my list. I don't physically have a list, but my mental list, it was on there.
I want to say that one might have gotten sold out, but I'm not 100% sure.
Probably. I don't need to buy vinyls right now anyway.
No, I know. Like, right now, we're talking about fun stuff because we realize that a lot of us, it's about the essentials right now. What do we need, not what do we want? So,
what do I want? What do I want?
I think we all just need to take a step back and realize things are going to get better, and we're going to be able to go to movie theaters at some point, and we're going to be able to see new movies. For the rest of us out there, there's nothing wrong with streaming something off of Amazon. You know, check out one new movie a week if you can afford it. I realize a lot of us are in bad financial situations right now.
Well, between like Netflix and, you know, all these movies on all these streaming services, which we have a ton of streaming services now. I never intended for us to have all these, but we do, between Leanna and I.
We got two. Two seems to be enough for us.
We got Netflix. Over quarantine, I subscribed to Shudder and HBO. And then we already had Hulu, and Leanna has Amazon Prime, so we have that.
So, you know, I think it's worth mentioning.
And we have Disney Plus.
Oh, you got the Disney Plus,
yeah.
too. I think it's worth mentioning to the fans out there, I don't want to be a shill. They're not paying me any money. But Shudder is doing 30-day free subscriptions for most of the quarantine lockdown stuff. So if you haven't already taken advantage of that, you can easily 30-day free trials.
I just signed up, dang it. I got screwed.
But yeah, if you go over there, head over. I don't even know if you need to use any discount codes. I mean, if you need to use one, I think Joe Bob for Joe Bob Briggs, since he has the Last Drive-In show on there. That might be one, but you could just Google it and find one pretty easy.
Of course you can.
But yeah, I mean, that place, I pay, I think, $6.49 after tax every month for that, and I feel like that's worth it for me. Plus, I get from my checking account for my bank, I get $5 back a month. So it's really like I'm putting that as my Shudder money. So really, I'm paying like $2 a month for this thing. So that's worth it for all the classics that are on there.
I don't plan on having Shudder too much longer.
You just got it for Creepshow.
I got it to finish Creepshow, and then noticed that there was some other stuff on there I wanted to watch. So once I knock off the big ones that I wanted to watch, I probably won't keep it, just because there's so much that I want to watch that I don't have time to watch. I won't get to the obscure titles on there.
Oh yeah, there's nothing wrong with coming back.
Yeah.
You could, let your subscription lapse, come back 6 months later when you got some more free time. They'll probably have another 30-day subscription thing that you can hit up.
Yeah. Or, I can pay for a month, knock out all I want to watch again, and then cancel it again, and then wait a while. And
that's what we call the Stranger Things approach.
Yeah, that's what you do for Netflix on Stranger Things. That's great.
I mean, honestly, yeah, I've watched most of what I want to watch off of Netflix. Not a lot of their series are ever really that compelling for me.
I mean, come on. Well, Ozark, we already talked about, and then like Stranger Things. What else? Well, they had Daredevil and Punisher.
And then Disney Plus came along, and yeah.
Oh my gosh. Daredevil and Punisher, but mostly Daredevil was amazing. That's still on there if you haven't seen it. But yeah, it's not a reoccurring thing anymore.
Yeah, it was never too big of a thing for me, but I'll go back for the Demogorgon once in a while whenever that comes back out, because I want to see what happened to Hop, my favorite character. He's in Russia. Don't tell me he's not.
What else you got?
All right, the other new one I watched. This one's another one of those it's pretty obscure. Some of you might have heard of this one. Sea Fever.
I've never heard of this one.
Now, the ocean is already naturally terrifying.
Yes, and much so to me.
Yeah, the ocean is just nightmare fuel. It is 100 billion gallons of nightmare fuel.
Is that what that movie is?
No, it's that's just my loose interpretation of what surrounds most of the earth. But no, the movie is it's a small Irish fishing trawler that this college student goes on because she has to do this thing for her PhD, something about studying marine life. So she goes onto this little boat and with this like ragtag crew, and they're just out trying to fish. Well, during this fishing expedition, something attaches itself to the hull of the boat.
Oh God.
Whatever it is, I got some strong The Thing kind of qualities from it. It's weird. It's like it's almost coming through the boat. It turned parts of the boat into like jelly just from touching it. Like wood just becomes like you could just peel it away. It's super weird.
I'm getting anxiety already just you talking about it.
It looks like there's just like these little things that are like coming through the ship, and then they find out it's alive, and 2, it's also a parasite that if it gets on you, you end up spawning more of whatever this is.
Well, looks like I'm gonna have to watch this and have nightmares.
And along the same lines, Sea Fever, yeah, go watch it. Along the same lines, there's another movie called Underwater.
Okay, so very brief story. I went and saw a movie at the Sky Cinema. I don't remember what I watched, but it was a scary movie or a horror thriller or something. And I hadn't seen any trailers, anything for this underwater movie. I just saw the title card over one of the theater openings. I'm like, oh, what's this? I never heard of this. And then I think I walked a little further and they had a poster. And it was something very blurred or obscured. But I was like, why have I not heard of this? It looks like something down my alley.
That's crazy thing too. I cannot believe this movie is not more popular than it is.
Yeah?
I think everybody should be talking about this movie if you're a horror fan.
Well, it hasn't been out long.
No, and I think the whole pandemic thing, when that happened, it closed down the movie theaters. A lot of movies just kind of went into obscurity that otherwise more people would have gravitated towards. The best synopsis I can give you for this movie is take one part Abyss, like that movie, and then mix in another part Aliens, like the James Cameron action sci-fi movie, and then also sprinkle in a little bit of like The Thing, and this is what you get. It's this weird amalgamation of like, it's a horror movie, but it's kind of an action movie. It's definitely sci-fi. And by the end of it, yeah, you're really going to like where they go with it. Because it reminded me a lot of Sea Fever, because there were some similarities there.
Keep it as
No,
discreet as you can, because I really do want to watch that one. I think one of the things was, granted it doesn't make it not a good movie, but I think one of the things was it was PG-13.
That would have surprised me if I knew that.
I think I might be wrong, but I think I looked and it was PG-13, and I was like, oh.
If it was, there was nowhere that I really noticed it being PG-13.
Whereas, like I said, that doesn't make it a bad movie. You know, Darkness Falls, Boogeyman, like a bunch of those were PG-13.
The T-shirt you're wearing.
Oh, was Happy Death Day?
PG-13.
Was it?
Yep.
Dang. Yeah, so like that doesn't mean that it won't be a good movie, but for the theater experience, when kids can get in, it kind of it can damper the experience.
That was the movie that kind of turned around my PG-13 thinking about horror movies for a little while.
What, Happy Death Day?
Happy Death Day.
That's a good one.
It was still pretty decent, even though it was lacking on the gore.
Yeah.
But then again, you know me, I want to see brains on the ceiling.
No. I could see less brains on the ceiling. Doesn't do it for me.
I'll wrap up my my horror list with the last movie I recently watched. It is a Shudder exclusive, so if you've got the streaming service, you can watch it for free. It's called Blood Quantum.
Why have I heard of that?
We were talking about it a little bit. Okay. It's about I know the old story now, zombie outbreak, but they throw a really good curveball in this one, is that it takes place around an Indian reservation, and all of the Native Americans are completely immune to the zombie virus. They can get bit over and over and over, and they never turn.
Which could be a blessing or a curse.
Yeah. No, you see that kind of play out in this movie.
But yeah, that's a really cool twist. I do remember you bringing this up now, and I was saying as soon as somebody starts talking about a movie or a TV show and then they say the word zombie, I just immediately fall off like I'm just not into the zombie stuff anymore. Like, it's been done to death for me, and it's
been done to undeath.
It's been done to undead. No, I'm just so sick of zombies and vampires and like traditional monsters like that.
Well, they do a good enough job of spicing up an old story.
It sounds like it. Like, you explain the plot though, and I'm like, well, that does sound interesting. So
I just really like the character of there's a couple characters that are like the main characters. There's the chief of the Indian police, of like the Native American tribe police. He's separate from like the city they live next to, so he's like their sheriff. He's like one of the main characters. Then he has two sons that are a couple of main characters. But the best character I thought was the sheriff's dad. Is like a Vietnam era vet who just owns this little pawn shop in the middle of nowhere, and as soon as shit starts hitting the fan, he just grabs a katana sword. Like, it's almost like the Native American version of Michonne as an old dude.
Yeah.
But he just holds his own. He's one of the last characters that makes it through the movie.
Dang.
But they do this thing a little ways into the movie where they have a little bit of a jump cut into the future, so then it suddenly becomes kind of Mad Maxy. But that's not a bad thing. It actually adds to the story. I like the way that they did that. And it stayed pretty real. But I'm not going to say any more about it because this is a newer movie. Go out and see it for yourself. The only other ones I had were non-horror. So I'm going to throw it back to you and say what horror movies have you been watching?
Well, I think I did mention it to you before because it was like right before our layoff stuff, but I did finally get around to watching Bird Box.
Oh yeah, you did mention that.
And that was one that was really popular, but I think it was really popular because it was really popular among non-horror watchers.
Yeah.
It was okay, but it just felt like a sort of reimagining of The Happening. So, like, if you
I'll
took
give it that,
The Happening and then decided you didn't want Mark Wahlberg or his weird acting or, like, the weird M. Night Shyamalan twisty stuff, and you're like, let's take The Happening, but do it legit. That's what it felt like.
It was a better version of The Happening, but I gotta defend Mark Wahlberg. I mean, watch like something like Shooter or Four Brothers. He's a good actor.
No, right, I'm not saying he's not, but everybody
it's the director.
Everybody that has seen The Happening or knows about that whole thing.
It's a meme of a movie. It's its own meme now.
Oh my god!
Just that Mark Wahlberg face.
Like, he didn't know what that movie was about. Like, he was just...
They're literally acting at nothing, thinking maybe later they're going to CGI something in. No, it's just, they just always leave it completely vague. Like, it's just the wind itself is carrying some pheromone that, just let's not get into The Happening. Let's not rehash the crap.
Well, they kind of keep Bird Box vague, though, too. Like, it's very similar. Did you see Bird Box?
Yeah, I watched it.
Okay. But it's very Stephen King-esque. Like, it feels very Stephen King-esque in the sense of it's...
The evil people kind of thing.
Well, a bunch of strangers having to live in a house together.
Yeah.
During this end of the world type thing. And who's it got in it? John Malkovich. Everybody knows about this movie. It was big.
Yeah,
but
I think people have probably seen that one.
I didn't watch it when it was big, and then it was on my watch list, and I was kind of like, hey, I'm going to go back to this movie that I missed. And it was okay.
I'm just kind of amazed Sandra Bullock survived, especially towards that end part. Like, okay, this is happening.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't happening. It was Bird Box.
Yeah, okay. You got me.
No, the ending was... I don't know how I feel about the ending on that. I mean, it was kind of cool, but in the same sense, it was kind of like... Okay. I don't know.
Yeah. It felt corny to me.
Yeah, like...
It was what it was.
Yeah. Let's move on from that. I did watch in its entirety The Purge Season 1. They made a TV series.
That's right. You were telling me a little bit about that.
And that's one that you haven't seen. I don't want to get into spoilers on it, but I do want to say that I did enjoy it. And it definitely brought some things to light that I never would have thought about that were interesting to see explored. Like, there's this cult. There's these people that voluntarily join this. It's a cult.
So they just made up their own religion to kill people or something?
No, they don't kill people. They give themselves to the purge.
Okay. So this is like a weird...
Yeah, so like it's really interesting. I like that. It explores different people on Purge Night from different points of view. And it's cool. I liked it. That's one of those things where, like the movies, I'd be interested to see what they do with each season. As long as it's different characters and different areas on Purge Night, I don't know if I would want to see them try and keep making, this happens to these characters from the first one in the second one now. Like,
They
just
could
give
do
us
crossovers between the
yeah,
seasons.
maybe
But I think that's the better idea is if they just made it
new characters,
new characters, but new locations too. Like we have one that takes place in like I don't know where this first season takes place, but like let's say New York, and then season 2 we mix it up and make it in like rural Washington.
Yeah.
In like just the middle of nowhere, but they're still having their purge too. So what would that look like? Just a bunch of people, I mean neighbors that live next to each other 2 miles away, but now your house is like surrounded by people that you think might be your neighbors. Maybe they're from out of town and they just decided to come out to the country to find some people to purge.
There's a lot of the purge is a subject that there's so much area to explore that I don't see it getting old anytime soon as long as the people making the purge content, TV show or movies, is keeping an open mind and not dwelling on the same things. As long as they're also like, yeah, there's a lot of area to explore. Like, we haven't even touched on what it would be like in this area for these types of people. But it seems like, at least with the first season of The Purge, they're kind of doing that. There's a character that is in a higher up position at a office firm, and they're working on Purge Night, but the floor of the building they're working on Purge Night, they've signed up off their rights to purge, and like that floor is untouchable. Like it's a purge free zone. So like they cover stuff like that. So that's what I mean. Because you sit back after you watch one purge film and you're like, yeah, but how would you do this, you know? And like, how would this be a thing during the purge? And they're getting to the point where they're actually explaining this stuff and being like, well, this is what it's like.
So is there actually more crime than just murder? Are they actually showing like bank robberies and things? Because that was the big complaint I always had with those movies. They said all crime
and then they
is
all
legal.
choose to kill.
Yeah, that's the only thing you ever see. Well, maybe there's some rapists out there too, but they're probably not going to put that in the movie.
In one of the movies, there was a couple. They were a couple, and they were just hooking up on a car out in the middle of the purge.
Yeah.
They get shot.
I mean, it's legal, I guess, you know, if you're really, like, if that's your thing, you're like, hey, honey, I mean, this is our one night a year, we can do this thing.
Yeah, they do mention stuff like that. In the series, you do see some people that are, like, that is a thing, but it's not, like, the highlighted thing, you know?
How exciting would it be if you're just, like, you're watching all these people running away from masked people with machetes and chainsaws and baseball bats with nails drilled through them, and then the camera just cuts to a stockbroker doing insider trading. Well, because this is illegal too. It's purge night, baby. I'm making that extra $1 million.
I always thought that you could spend months of preparation preparing a heist, like a bank job.
Right.
And then on purge night, everything's legal. You don't have to hide anything. You just go out and then... But you also have to think banks would also prep for the purge.
Right.
It would also... So, it's counterintuitive. Like, I don't know.
I would think you'd just have an inside man. You have somebody working at that bank that's like, hey, boys, you want to make a couple million this purge night?
I'm sure it would be more difficult than it sounds. But yeah, I'm sure there's a way around it. It would be interesting to see a heist film made out of The Purge, you know?
I think you could do it. I think the only way we would know if The Purge was, like, as a series was going downhill is if they went the Leprechaun route.
Do it in space?
Well, I mean,
The Purge
in space, The Purge, Back to the Hood. Like, you could make up these names.
You heard it here first, folks.
The Purge in space.
Oh my gosh.
Space Purge.
It's a race to the moon, but anything goes on Purge Night. So yeah, I watched that. That was interesting. I think there is going to be a season 2 coming out soon. If it hasn't already aired, it might have already aired, but I'm behind because I buy physical media. I don't know what that's USA. I think I don't have cable. So when it comes out on Blu-ray, I'll buy it and watch it. But so that's that. And then we watched a little bit more of the X-Files. I won't talk a whole lot about this. We're only on season 2. But
Oh, yes.
we're almost done with season 2. So we're almost 2 seasons in. There's so many seasons to that show.
Yeah.
And they picked it back up. So it's like...
Well, I'll give you a little bit of a spoiler, but
Don't give me a spoiler.
you don't really need to watch the new episodes. They're okay.
I probably will, but it'll be a while before I get
right.
there, and I'm not racing to get there.
You're getting into some of the best seasons, though.
Yeah.
Season 3 through 6 were probably the best seasons.
Yeah.
Season 7 is my personal favorite, but I just like it cheesy. And Season 7 got so cheesy.
Yeah. Well, the big things for me are everybody's... You know how everybody says Lost... Oh, well, the ending, they were dead the whole time, and it's not true at all. But it's a big popular thing. It's just what people say. When it comes to the X-Files, I hear a lot of Mulder's sister alien abduction thing never goes anywhere. They never, like...
I mean, it does, but then they'll double back on it and say, oh, you didn't know this, or this is another angle to it. They keep pulling things out of that well.
I will say they brought in a lady and said that it was her in one episode, and then it was like, turns out, guess what? It's not really her. And which, based on what everyone said, I kind of figured, well, it's not really going to be her. But I'm just wondering, are they going to keep bringing this up and it's not really going to go anywhere? And then the other thing is, a lot of it, because it's essentially Supernatural before Supernatural. It's where Supernatural got the episode-to-episode monster kind of basis.
You can say the same thing about Fringe.
Right, or Fringe. But the problem is that because I've seen Supernatural first, I feel like... I know X-Files came first, but I feel like I've seen this before, and it's not as exciting.
Well, Supernatural really hammed it up, and they put a lot more comedy into it.
Yeah.
The X-Files was always meant to be like a straight kind of show, where it's just like sci-fi drama.
I like, and we also watched through the full season of Project Blue Book, which is another one that's a lot like that. But that's strictly UFO type cases.
Right.
But my big thing about X-Files is I'm really into the Greys and all that creepy alien stuff. But so far, you get like one episode with that and then like 20 that aren't that. And then I'm just kind of like waiting for more alien stuff.
Your wait is going to pay off because coming up pretty soon, there's going to be introductions to alien races that are reoccurring characters all the time.
That sounds cool.
One of them, they just call it the Alien Bounty Hunter.
Yeah.
And
I might have met that guy. That guy might have appeared already in the episode I was just talking
the
about.
weird kind of bodybuilder guy.
The actor actually played Shao Kahn in the terrible Mortal Kombat Annihilation movie.
Did he really?
Yeah, if it's the guy, yeah.
It might be the same guy, yeah.
He's like he was killing clones, and they were turning into goop, and they were trying to stop all these clones from getting murdered. But yeah, that was the last episode I watched, I think. So they're starting to get there. I think the gray traditional alien stuff is really creepy.
Was that him?
Yeah, that's him.
Yep,
Brian. Yep. So yeah, we met that guy, and he escaped on a submarine in the Arctic. But that's where that is. X-Files is okay. I try and give it a chance because I know it's a lot older than most of the stuff I'm watching, and there's a lot more seasons. TV wasn't... I don't want to upset anyone. TV wasn't as compelling at the time.
Oh, blasphemy. I just got to say, when you grow up with it, when it's on TV every week and you're looking forward to it, it's a lot different than just sitting down and trying to binge it.
Yeah.
It's part of the reason why it's so hard for me to get through The Man in the High Castle. I like the show. I really like it. But it seems every episode is set up 15 minutes at the beginning is incredibly compelling television. Then you get about 20 minutes of filler, where almost nothing happens but plot points are happening, so you need to pay attention. And then 10 minutes at the end, where something explosive happens to get you to watch the next episode.
Cliffhangers were bigger back then than they are now. I'm not saying that they aren't still a thing, but
if you watch streaming services, that's like every episode of every show, just to get you to keep watching the show. They work their whole thing towards binge modeling. And back in the day, it was, hey, we had to wait a week, so we'll calm it down at the end and maybe leave a little bit of a mystery.
No.
I lived through it, trust me.
The hook needed to be bigger to get you to come back a week later than the hook needs to be to get you to click on the next episode.
Not as much as you think, because the game wasn't as big. They didn't have a lot of options.
Not as much competition.
Yeah. I mean, you had the X-Files, Star Trek The Next Generation, and maybe Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman. Were there more than 3 shows on TVs in the 90s? Let me know.
Doctor Who.
Yeah, So, some of the shows out there were compelling enough to keep you watching them. X-Files was a big one for me. I thought that was, one of those series, if you grew up with it, you get really nostalgic for it. But to watch it cold now and never watched it before, oh yeah, I mean, your whole movie and TV sphere is so dominated with stuff that's just so much higher production value, and it's just so much bigger. Trying to watch something like that, it's like telling a kid that's been playing a PlayStation to go play with Duplo blocks. It's just really hard to get past.
I did finally watch Braid.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's one of those movies where you finish it and you don't know how you feel about it, because it's very abstract. It's a psychological thriller. It's got a lot of things that don't make sense to you when you watch it. But it's one of those movies where the more I think about it and theorize, the more it grows on me, because there is a lot of room to theorize. And I can't say too much about it. 1, because I don't want to spoil stuff, and 2, I couldn't explain things even if I wanted. But the main thing is, it's these 2 girls decide to go back and visit a childhood friend in order to steal her inheritance. They need money. They're on the run. But their friend is unwell. And they know that in order to search the house and find her safe, they need to play this game. They need to play along. So... Is
it Doctor?
It might be Doctor.
Is it really? Oh my god!
I don't know what all that would entail, but it's a really all over the place movie, but in a good way. Like, it's somebody that knew what they wanted to do.
That's still my future double feature I have to do is
Braid and Ma. So my brother and I are like polar opposites, and we give each other a hard time about most things. And I saw a trailer for Braid and thought it looked like a really good movie. And he saw a trailer for Ma and thought it looked like a really good movie. And I thought that it looked terrible. And it didn't look like a good movie at all. And he thought the same about Braid. I don't know if he was just giving me crap because I was giving him crap or what. But it was kind of like, you think that looks like a good movie? No, this is what a good movie looks like. And he was like, no, and vice versa. And Jonas was caught in the middle. And we were like, Jonas, that movie looks terrible, doesn't it? And he's like, it doesn't look that bad. And we were just kind of... I said
the same thing about Braid. And I'm like, you know what? I'll be the tiebreaker. I'll watch them both back to back. And I'll let you guys know which movie I thought was better. So, and I did score a copy of both of those.
Did you?
I just haven't had the time to watch them both back to back yet.
That's great.
I started Ma just for like 5 minutes to see if it was like a decent copy of it. And it was like, yeah, it was okay.
Yeah.
So I just stopped it and I'm like, I'll go back to this later. But yeah, it definitely looks like it's going to be cheese.
It looks so terrible. Like, it's like the villain. It looked like a movie that was, and I will say I did look up the Rotten Tomatoes or something for it at one point, and it was a lot higher than I expected it to
It was
be.
like 40s or 50s?
I want to say it was like positive.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was going to be a splat on that one.
And me too. And I was like, dang, maybe I'm in the minority. But I saw the trailer, and I'm like, this is a movie that was obviously intended for high school kids.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, oh, we can't even buy beer. Oh, well, let's get this lady to buy beer. And then she's like, oh, but what if I just don't leave? And what if I'm crazy? Like, don't make me drink alone. I'm just like, this looks terrible. And then, of course, Justin, who's, 27 now. Like, I thought it looked like a great movie. And I'm just like, of course you did. Of course you did.
Is it going to be as bad as the remake of Psycho? Probably not. But
what,
then...
the one with...
colorized shot for shot Vince Vaughn. Psycho. That movie is only redeeming because the soundtrack was pretty good. But
I don't understand the controversy behind that.
it was basically they just remade it with modern day actors
So what's wrong with that?
because you can just go back and watch the black and white one.
Okay.
It's exactly the same movie. The
So it's
dialogue's
like,
the same. The camera angles are the same. They didn't change anything.
So it's a matter of your opinion on shot-for-shot remakes and whether they deserve to be a thing.
I mean, but why? If the original movie was good and everybody agrees that it was good, why do you need to remake it for kids that won't watch a black and white movie? Screw those kids. If you can't watch a black and white movie, I said it here first, folks. If you can't watch a black and white movie, get the hell out.
I guess that's... I won't say I agree. I can see or understand that point of view then.
Hey, the original Godzilla movies were all black and white too, and those did pretty good.
Speaking of which, there's something I didn't put on my list, but you made me think of. I watched Night of the Living Dead for the first time over quarantine.
Now, did you watch
The black and white one.
You watched the 60s version.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. That was on Shudder, and that was the first thing after because I got Shudder for, what was it? Creepshow. And the first thing I watched after I finished Creepshow was Night of the Living Dead.
So, what did you think of it?
It was okay.
It was just okay?
like a lot of these older movies are kind of underwhelming to me.
They're a little tame compared to this. It's not The Void. Right.
Not that I'm wanting The Void, but yeah. This one, I would say, was a little above my expectations. Because I knew that it was the original and that it was black and white. And, I've seen the original House on Haunted Hill. And it's like...
That one's cheesy. Yeah, it's cheesy.
Yeah. And you compare it to the House on Haunted Hill 90s version, and it's like two completely different movies. One is like a murder mystery, and one actually has like ghosts killing people. But so I expected something like that. It's the original, so it's gonna be very underwhelming. It was actually done pretty well. There were characters made smart decisions up until the end.
Yeah. Ben and Cooper just going at each other.
But characters were made smart decisions. Barbara was the original I can't stand that character type horror character.
I'm 100% there with you, yeah.
I didn't realize, because I knew the scene, they're coming to get you, Barbara. I knew she was in the movie. And not until I watched it did I realize not only is Night of the Living Dead the first zombie film, but it introduces horror characters that you can't stand, starring Barbara.
Well, I don't know if it's not factually accurate to say it's the first zombie movie, because there were a few before.
Yeah.
It was the first zombie movie where they ate flesh.
Okay.
Where they actually ate people. Before that, zombies were just do my bidding, and they're just the zombie people that would shamble around and do, they were basically slaves, which is a lot more in kin with Haiti and voodoo and their traditions. They would have, if you ever want to watch a crazy movie, The Serpent and the Rainbow, that's one that has to do with real zombies, how they make them, and it's a fictional movie, but it has more to do with fact, how things used to happen. But It's veering off here, I know.
And no, it's just funny the way you say it. Like, I want to watch a crazy movie.
If you want to watch, hey, if you're like me and you just want to watch a fucked up movie once in a while, and you've watched all the Trauma movies already, sometimes you got to dig a little bit deeper. But the other thing I wanted to say is, yes, 100% with you on Barbara's character. This is why you need to watch the remake.
Okay.
Tom Savini, all hail Lord Tom,
Yeah.
that made all of the best gore effects that we see in horror movies. This guy also helped make Creepshow, that was just airing on Shudder.
He was on the... I only watched the beginning, but he was on the Camp Crystal Lake Memories.
Right,
the
he's got his own documentary. Smoke and Mirrors, it's on Shudder. I know, we'll stop shilling for Shudder already. But Tom Savini made his own version of Night of the Living Dead. It was a remake in 1990. I like that version better than the original one.
Really?
That's going to be controversial for me to say. And I know, I'm not just saying it because it's in color. I'm saying it because, specifically, some of the characters got retooled. It was a true remake, kind of like the Evil Dead remake.
Yeah.
Whenever Freddy Furs, I forget his name, Furday, the guy that directed Evil Dead did a great job in reimagining some of the characters. They did the same thing Tom Savini did in Night of the Living Dead, where Barbara turned into like a Ripley kind of character. Instead of going like wilting like a leaf, she's like, you guys are all stupid and I'm gonna survive this. And I loved that about that character. Like, she just took charge. And even there's that scene where Ben's like, hey, have you got it together? And she's like, I'm fine, you guys are the problem. And they're all like, oh okay.
As long as they do it and don't turn the other characters dumb.
No.
Know what I mean?
No,
like,
they stayed about the same as they were in the other movie. But there were a couple additions. There's 2 more characters. Instead of just the Coopers in the basement, there's also a family member of the people that live in the house that's like a distant cousin that just came over to like see what happened to his uncle, and he had to flee in the basement with these people. And his girlfriend. And his girlfriend is the new Barbara.
For some reason, and his girlfriend. And his girlfriend's girlfriend.
And like, his girlfriend's girlfriend's boyfriend. It's a weird thing down south. No.
I thought that's where you were going with it. I also watched Upgrade. I know it's not a horror film, but...
it's skirting the line.
That was pretty good.
No, it was a great movie.
And I remember telling you it felt like if Black Mirror got a movie.
Yeah. It felt like a Black Mirror extended episode.
Yeah.
Oh, quick aside, I did just hear in the news today, you're gonna hate this, but Bloody Disgusting reported on it that I think the showrunners at Netflix said that they won't be releasing any more Black Mirror for the time being because it's too dark for the current climate.
That's an odd choice.
Yeah, I mean, come on, guys. We need our...
Because our technology actually is like something Black Mirror is happening in reality.
I don't want to freak you out too much, but I did some more research on some stuff. There's a thing called the Eater robot, spelled EATR, like all like apostrophe, like periods apart.
Yeah.
It's a robot that DARPA is working on right now. The Defense Research Projects, the government is funding this thing. It can use biological matter as fuel. Yeah, just let that sink in for a second.
That's really messed up.
Somebody is thinking, hey, you know all those weird drones and Boston Dynamics things that we're working on? Those aren't quite terrifying enough. Why don't we have a giant 5-ton machine that can survive in the wild by eating people?
Well, there you have it. They're not taking a break because the subject matter is too dark. They're taking a break to see what's going to happen with this Eater thing,
right?
So that they get better writing material.
They're calling up the guys over there at the science wing of the robot production, being like, "Hey, how exactly are you guys making these? Can you send us some notes over here?"
That's great. Black Mirror is good, but yeah, it's small doses, man, because that stuff does get really dark and depressing.
Except for the virtual gay affair episode.
Yeah.
That threw a lot of people for a loop, I'm betting.
It's like, what? Happy ending?
But We were talking about Upgrade. That was a great movie. And I would
Yeah.
just say, I think it qualifies as horror because there are some scenes in there, I'll call it sci-fi horror, but there's some scenes in there that were right up there with some of the goriest stuff I've seen in a movie. And it's so abrupt and sudden that it works really well to just shock you out of like, oh, wow, that just happened.
I do want to bring up some slight spoiler stuff for Upgrade, just because when I was watching it, I was trying to figure it out, as most people do, and I'm like, what's the name of the smart guy that puts the chip in him? You know who I'm talking about, anyway.
Yeah.
So
Aaron Keene.
Aaron Keene.
Yeah.
But I'm like, he's got to be the antagonist because whoever it was had the power to stop this vehicle. He's the only other character we've been introduced to. Like, sure, it could be some off-screen person working at the company that the main character's wife worked at, but that just seemed to, why wouldn't they introduce characters from there if it was going to be someone from there? So I'm like, this whole time, I'm like, it's got to be him, and then he's going to come back. And I liked that they were kind of one step ahead of me, and like, yeah, of course that's what you're going to think. And then they pulled the twist out, and I won't say it, but like, that it was pretty good.
Oh, man.
The bleak endings are kind of like, I don't know,
but really, without getting too spoilery, how bleak really is it for him? You could go either way on this one.
But for the rest of humanity?
Maybe this is how the Matrix started, yeah.
And you have that scene where he's in that apartment and he's like, who would want to live their lives in virtual reality? Like, I never understood that. It's stupid. And then, it was a good movie. And I was also telling you the way that the fight scenes were choreographed and everything, it was really cool. And like we were talking about the camera that moves with him when he does like flips and stuff.
The way they did that Steadicam kind of work where they really had to have like attached it either to him or had maybe some of, I don't want to say it was all CGI'd, but yeah, those camera shots, they were just so quick and in time with what he was doing. They must have choreographed the shit out of that.
Yeah, it was great.
I gotta say, handguns though.
Yeah,
Guns.
that was cool.
That was great.
And whoever was behind all that choreography or whatever, whoever had the vision for those fight scenes, I was telling you they need to get behind Marvel and start working on because anyone that watches the Marvels, gets into the MCU, knows how they're starting to intricately plot out these phase-long villains for these different movies. And I'm like, they're picking up X-Men. They need to start working on Danger.
Yeah,
and
this is the character
they
you're
need
telling me
to
about,
yeah, and they need to get whoever was behind Upgrade to choreograph these fight scenes, and they need to get it done because that was really cool.
That's a deep dive for you MCU nerds out there. Look up who Danger is.
Just a quick, brief synopsis. It's the Danger Room manifested into a being, and the X-Men train in the Danger Room. That's where they fight. That's where they do everything. It knows everything about the X-Men. So it's kind of, it functions like it has its own consciousness. So it functions very much so like STEM would in Upgrade. Whereas it's this computer type program, but it learns, and it's learned all of these powerful characters' tactics and moves and weaknesses, and it's going to exploit them. And I watched Upgrade, and I'm like, that would be awesome, because that's what it made me think of.
It's a good way to explain this to someone. If you're a fan of fighting games, and a lot of the newer ones are doing this, if you put it up to like hard mode or something, and the computer you're fighting against, somehow it just like blocks every punch, time exactly as soon as you throw it. Like it's reading your button moves, so it knows what you're doing. So it can, and it's not only the computer you're playing it on the computer. So you're playing itself. So
Yeah.
it already has the advantage. If it wants to beat you, it'll just beat you. I would just throw it out there if anybody didn't know, another little horror news tidbit today. Hellraiser series is in development. Not sure if it's going to be live action or possibly animated. Haven't heard much about it yet, but we are looking forward to seeing what happens with that. I'm in.
I'm open to the idea. I've never been huge on Hellraiser, but I have seen like the first 4 or 5 movies.
If anybody out there is thinking like, oh, they couldn't possibly do it animated and do it justice, I would tell you, go watch the new Mortal Kombat movie that just came out, Scorpion's Revenge. It is possibly the goriest thing that's ever been animated, and I've watched a lot of Japanese anime from like the 90s and 80s, and some of that stuff was grotesque.
Nice.
This, oh my god, people are getting their heads chopped in eighths. Like, it is crazy.
I haven't seen that yet. That is on my to-watch list.
It's actually really good because it's a reimagining of like the whole first movie.
Yeah.
But it's all from like Scorpion's perspective, like before any of it ever started, and then his like horrible thing with Sub-Zero happens, and then the tournament starts, and plus Joel McHale plays Johnny Cage,
Yeah.
so that's pretty awesome.
I don't know who Joel McHale is.
Community.
I haven't seen
You never
Community.
watched Community?
I haven't seen Community,
Oh, okay.
sorry.
Well, some of the people out there are gonna know who I'm talking about, and they'll probably be fans of this movie.
I want to see it. I know the backstory, so I don't know if they're changing things or how accurate it is. I won't say anything, just in case it's spoilers for the movie. But does it bring characters into it that weren't in the first movie?
Yes.
Okay, then it's probably accurate. Like Shang Tsung and Goro aren't like the only antagonists.
No.
Okay.
But they're in it.
So I'm thinking it's probably going to be pretty accurate to what happens in the lore of the games.
I think that's what they were going for, because they brought in a lot more people than I was expecting that were going to be in it.
That sounds like it could be pretty cool.
Yeah, it's definitely worth a watch if you can find it. I'd say give it a try.
In our first podcast, we had mentioned the possibility of discussing some popular horror films that we hadn't seen that we should see, but like movies that we dread admitting in public that, oh, well, I haven't actually seen that horror movie. And I had a very, very short list. I only have like a couple names down here, but I actually knocked some of them out during quarantine. So I don't think we have really enough to make a whole video off of or anything, but I'm just going to talk about some of them that couldn't be on that list anyway because I have not watched them. I'm going to list them all, and then we can talk about them if you want to talk about them.
All right.
The Fog.
Oh, that's a classic.
Prom Night.
Good one.
I know, like a Jamie Lee
Lee fan here.
Yeah. Slumber Party Massacre and Cannibal Holocaust.
Oh, man.
I just see you laughing.
You know, and that was the one that you told me about at work, and I'm like, well, you're still here. You're still with us. You made it through the other side.
I really didn't know what I was getting into. I think I was a little cockier than I should have been with
There's a reason that one's still on the ban list for a lot of countries.
I want to share the story behind this. Well, I watched Green Inferno, which is the Eli Roth film that's, I'm sure it's highly inspired by Cannibal Holocaust.
Oh yeah, and Cannibal Ferox. It's kind of an amalgamation of some of these movies.
Yeah, in Cannibal Holocaust, they even refer to where they're going as the Green Inferno several times. So it makes sense where he got his name and everything. So I watched Eli Roth's Green Inferno first. And as you're aware, if you watch these podcasts, I'm not a big gore person, but there's a lot more to these movies than just gore. Like, the fear comes from other places. It's psychological. Fear of leaving the country, fear of the unknown. There's a lot more to it. So I'm like, I want to watch them anyway.
In these movies, it's Who's Coming to Dinner.
I watched The Green Inferno, and I had a really hard time with it. It was really messed up. As I knew what I was getting into, but I did it anyway, and
I actually had to buy that on DVD because I could not find it in any other format.
Really?
Yeah. Couldn't find it on streaming anywhere. Couldn't even find a file, allegedly, on the internet anywhere.
Dang.
Nothing. I had to find it in a pawn shop for $2.
Well, after I watch Green Inferno, of course I go to Jonas and I talk about it. And Jonas's response is something on the lines of, Green Inferno isn't even nearly as bad as Cannibal Holocaust.
Yep.
So, like, if you can't handle Green Inferno, there's no way you're going to be able to handle Cannibal Holocaust, or something on the lines of that.
I did think Green Inferno was much tamer than I thought it was
Yes,
going to be.
that's what you told me. It's much tamer. And my immediate reaction is, yeah, right. Like, Jonas likes old movies. He's talking up this older movie because that's what he likes. And he's just dissing on the remake / modern movie, that whole genre. And so I watched Cannibal Holocaust. And for the first half of the movie, it really wasn't that bad. Like, you follow these, what are they?
They're like anthropologists, I want to say.
Sure. These people are trying to find these missing kids that went out there to document the natives.
Yeah.
And
so I guess they were like mercenary trackers or something like that.
Yeah. And so when you're following them, it's really not that bad. Like, you find some of the aftermath of the things that the kids set up, what they went through. You find like a body at one point and things like that. And then you do come across the tribes, and they do some messed up stuff. It's not like it's, kid friendly, but like, I'm like, yeah, Jonas was wrong. Green Inferno is way worse than any of this. Lead into the second half of the movie. It was non-stop, relentless, disturbing and messed up things happening. And it was like, granted, I didn't know. I knew that the movie was messed up. I knew it was banned. I heard about the turtle thing.
Yeah.
The turtle thing was way worse than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be like a Friday the 13th, like, the snake comes in, gets killed real quick, it's over. People are like, that was a real snake. I'm like, okay. The turtle thing was really messed up.
It was rough.
Yeah, it was rough.
They have that disclaimer at the end of the movie. All animal things were no, they don't really have that.
Well, they had at the end of the movie that the filmmakers were fined and paid.
Right.
And so like,
it makes you think back then you might be able to get away with something like that with a fine. Nowadays, they wouldn't even put your film out for release. I don't think you could get away with that at all.
Well, like you said, it is still banned in places, so
but
it makes sense.
I guess that's the difference between cruelty to animals and watching the hunting channel, where you can see like a deer or a turkey get shot.
Isn't that weird?
It is
the same thing.
It is,
right?
I don't know exactly what the stipulation there is. Maybe it's just because one is for entertainment purpose and the other one is a sport, hobby, or feeds people.
But they did eat it on screen.
So
I don't know. That's weird.
Well,
I don't want to.
Slaughterhouse videos have been banned for a long time because nobody wants to see how the sausage gets made.
I don't really want to get into the
we're in the weeds
politics
again.
of it.
We're in the weeds of the Green Inferno.
But yeah, it was a lot more than I thought I was signing up for, and I wanted to have seen it. I wanted the knowledge of what the movie was and
you got
to
it
go
under
through
your
it.
belt. I'm proud of you.
But yeah, like the turtle was the beginning, man. Like it, and it. I think that it was also really. I mean, I don't want to say that it was super creative because the kids were the real monsters, kind of, because that's not creative. We see that all the time, but for the time, I feel like that probably wasn't always the case. They made, like, you see what the kids do and how messed up their actions are, and you're like,
right.
So, like, I guess I'll just speak from my experience. Going in, I had no idea that was going to be the case. And like I said, I watched Green Inferno first.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, you're going to this place where all these cannibal people are going to kill you all. And then I saw what was really happening, and I was like, oh. So, like, it really did blow my mind when that twist came around.
I kind of think it's a good thing that Eli Roth made that movie just to get more people interested in some of the older movies like that.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate that he did not use the same twists and stuff in his movie. That he just... Actually, his movie is a lot closer to Cannibal Ferox, which you haven't watched. And you don't...
I don't think I'm going to.
You don't need to. It's another one from around the same kind of lines, but there's a little bit less gore in that one, and a little bit more like I don't want to say like native abuse kind of stuff going on. Like they're still treating the natives like shit, and it comes back to bite them in the ass. But yeah, it's one of those movies. I think everybody that's a horror fan needs to see it eventually.
You were talking about House of Wax, and I was just waiting for these kids to die. They weren't really that likable. And then you watch a movie like Cannibal Holocaust, and you're like, this sets the new bar for these kids really need to die. Yep. But then, even then, though, when you see them die, it's so horrific that it's like,
not like this.
Right? Like the girl, the female. Oh my gosh, that was brutal.
Yeah, that was. I told you at work about this. That was the story behind that movie. Is when it came out, the director and producer were actually arrested, and they were in a jail cell until they could prove that those kids were still alive.
Yeah, that's what you said.
Because people thought in some countries that this was an honest-to-God snuff film that had somehow found its way into theaters.
That's gotta feel good from a director's standpoint.
Oh yeah, they loved it.
That.
And then nowadays you have like stuff like the Blair Witch that pulled off almost the same trick like 30 years later.
You can't do that anymore with the internet.
No, it'd be really hard.
Yeah,
well, there are things that people do called ARGs, where it's an augmented reality game where somebody will figure something out with like a code in a YouTube video, and that leads to a website where there's something. It's like an internet scavenger hunt that looks like it could be like a real weird creepy thing going on. Like I showed you that thing about what was the thing I sent you over the quarantine when I was talking about that channel Nexpo.
Yeah.
And they had that whole video from the creator of Channel Zero that made that whole thing about the moon.
Yeah, you're just like what did you say to me that made me feel like, oh my god, what am I getting into? You were like, I'm not responsible for any something.
It was that cartoon, man. That thing messed me up. But that's another thing you guys can look into if you look around enough. But what was some of the other ones that you were talking about?
So The Fog and Prom Night.
Yes.
So I'll talk about The Fog first. I thought right off the bat, I was really impressed with The Fog. I thought it was really cool. Like the way that the creatures came out of the fog and everything. And that first kill area with the guys on the boat.
Yeah.
That was really cool. And I was really impressed with it. I do think, though, that it kind of... Like, it started really strong, and then it kind of...
died down a little bit.
Yeah. Like, it was really dry for a long time for me. No pun intended,
do you believe the Jamie Lee Curtis, Tom Atkins romance going on?
No. You're talking about their, like, intimacy.
Yeah.
That was...
just where she gets picked up hitchhiking by Tom Atkins.
Yeah, and then
the first thing she asks him, are you weird?
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, I'm pretty weird. It's like, okay. The last guy that picked me up wasn't weird at all. Yeah.
Yeah, that was good. Like, I liked it, but I thought I was really gonna like it based on like the first couple parts, and then it kind of lost me.
Well, it was 80s.
Yeah.
They had to mix in some romance and some stuff like that with a lot of their horror, but it's surprising that it came from the same people that made Halloween.
Yeah.
Same John Carpenter, Deborah Hill, all the people. A lot of the people were responsible for making this movie too. That they used a lot of the same kind of concepts from Halloween. I mean, Jamie Lee Curtis is in it.
Yeah, that's the first thing I noticed.
But I thought that Adrienne Barbeau was probably the best character in that movie. She's the radio DJ.
Oh, yeah?
I loved that character and how she just... Her voice on the radio was the one thing trying to save people. Stay away from the fog. Get out of the fog.
But I also... when I was in school, the remake came out, and I know that's panned. A lot of people hate it.
I never watched it.
That's one that I enjoyed it a lot when I was a kid. So I'd be interested to see, being older now and having seen the original, going back, if I would still enjoy it or if I would be like, yeah.
I'd be curious. I've never watched it, so I can't have an opinion on that one.
But it starred Tom Welling, who played Superman in Smallville, and Maggie Grace, who played Shannon in Lost. So, like, I know the actors and actresses in the remake, too. So, I don't know. I'd like to rewatch that. Part of me feels like I might not enjoy it as much as I used to. But
I'll have to give it a watch at all, yeah.
And then Prom Night, I really did enjoy, and I hated the remake.
Yeah, I'm there with you. The Prom Night remake was horrible.
I saw the Prom Night remake in theaters when it came out, when I was in school. And I just remember thinking that it was really dumb. Like any time you thought something was going to happen, like a character would go off, it would happen. There was no, like, fake outs. There was no, oh, is this...
It was a very cookie-cutter kind of horror movie.
And it showed who the killer was right off the bat. It was the teacher guy, right? Like, he was in a relationship with one of the students. And so... And that has one of the same problems I had with Slumber Party Massacre, which was okay. But it shows who the killer is right away. And I'm like, well, that's why your character didn't blow up. Because we see your face,
But the second one... is really where Slumber Party Massacre came into its own.
I've heard that it's really weird, and it's got a guitar murder weapon. Oh, yes. And...
It's not just a drill. It's a drill on the end of an electric guitar.
Yeah, I heard about that.
That one's just, it's pure cheese. But, it's one of those Friday night with a bunch of friends kind of movies.
Yeah.
You make fun of this one when you watch it.
But Prom Night was really smart. I didn't expect that. And I thought I knew who the killer was. And I was wrong.
Yeah. So, a lot of people say that the first time going in.
I don't want to spoil who the killer was, but I will spoil who I thought it was. I thought it was the dad.
Yeah. I could see that. If I remember right, my first watching of it, I thought for the longest time that it was Jamie Lee Curtis.
Really?
Until towards the end of the movie. I'm like, okay, well, it can't be her now.
So, yeah, I mean, it was impressive. Yeah, I don't want to spoil it, so I don't want to talk about it too much, but I did enjoy Prom Night. That's another one I'm curious if I went back and rewatched the remake, if I would still hate it. Yeah. Like, I'm just curious how solidified are my opinions of these movies? Because, like, I watched them so long ago. What if I hated Quarantine, the American release of Rec, and I'm like, I wonder... if I went back and watched that, if I would still hate it, or I wonder if I don't feel the way that I did then.
I mean, look at how it turned out with 13 Ghosts. I mean, I thought that was like a great movie when I first watched it as a teen, and now I go back and watch it, I'm like, what the hell? Was I smoking? Well, I know what the answer to that is, but
you were. So
I mean, it made everything a better movie. I've got one that I can pull off the top of my head that I actually did watch a movie that was one of the I've never seen this movie and I should probably watch it. And we've discussed it before, but it's always been in hushed tones, and like that's the one movie I would never watch.
Okay.
You might know what I'm gonna say.
I don't.
I hate to even admit that I did it, because watching it felt like committing a crime.
Uh-oh. What was it?
I watched a Serbian film.
Oh my gosh.
I have no words.
During your quarantine you watched this?
Yeah. Because I'm just like, you know what? If I don't watch it now, I'm probably just never going to get around to it. For one, really hard movie to track down. Probably for a good reason.
That's a found footage film, right?
No. It's not. It's scripted. It's
okay.
It's basically a story of a retired porn actor that gets contracted by this millionaire to make a series of films. So he signs the dotted line, and he's going to get, they never say how much money, but just enough that he never has to worry about money again.
Okay.
And that's as much as I'm going to say about the plot of the movie. It
just keeps going downhill.
You could probably put together where it's going.
It has very so what was that movie? I know we talked about it before. 13
Sins.
Very 13 Sins.
That's a
kind of
cakewalk
vibe
compared to
right.
this one.
I'm not comparing it in the scale
but
of
it's,
the thing. But
it's you're in for a penny, you're in for a pound kind of thing.
And movies like that always kind of like exhaust me, because I'm like, if the first thing you didn't want to do it, you're not going to want to do it by the end. And especially that 13 Sins movie, because if he didn't do it, the thing that he got, he didn't get anything.
Yeah.
I'm like, you might as well drop it now, but you keep going.
Well,
and
this
I'm
one,
like,
it's a little bit different because he has that same kind of reaction. Like, at one point he's like, I'm out. I'm done. I don't care about the money. I'm leaving. But they don't let him. You don't get out that easy. Apparently, you sign your name on the dotted line, armed men come and get you. So he can't get out.
I mean, you choose that or death, right?
Yeah, but not just for him, his family too.
That makes it harder.
Yeah.
I get it, but it's...
I will say, I will not recommend this movie. I would not recommend this movie to anyone.
Yeah,
and I know
not a good watch.
This is a meme online, is non-horror people asking horror people, hey, what's a good movie to watch? And they say a Serbian film. Because they just want to traumatize
they don't
somebody.
Know what they're getting into.
They want to traumatize somebody as much as possible. And this is, I could say unequivocally, like, not worst as in quality-wise, but worst as in this movie is fucking evil.
Dang.
Don't watch this movie.
That's pretty bad.
Of all the movies I've watched.
Coming from an atheist.
No, this movie is fucking evil.
Wow.
Avoid at all costs. If you really want to go, and then some people like me, I mean, I can't help myself. I want to watch fucked up shit.
I'm not gonna watch it. You just heard me talk about Green Inferno.
No, I mean, I would show Green Inferno for a first grade class of children before I would go back and watch a Serbian film again myself.
Please don't do that. Yeah. The only other movies that I had on my list of movies, my list of popular films I haven't seen yet, dare I mention them, I do have The Stepfather still.
All right.
Which I really do want to see that movie. As I mentioned, I'm a really big Lost fan, and Terry O'Quinn is the stepfather, and I want to see it. And then I also have Halloween 2 or 3 or like any of the
Halloween 2 is worth a watch, but 3, man, come on. You gotta get down with 3.
I know.
3, you can watch it anytime. You don't even have to watch 2 first.
I haven't seen it.
Oh, Tom Atkins, my man, at his finest.
This is why we made I don't know. This is why we can't talk about this. We can't have nice things.
No, after I've watched the Serbian film, it's all changed.
It's all over.
It's all over now.
You might as well watch The Audition now.
Yeah, I probably will. I mean, there's nothing on Shudder that's going to traumatize me. I've seen the worst there is to see. So I guess that's my closing note, if I'm going to have one here today, is if you really just want to go all out and just see the darkest corners of man, you can do that. But you're going to bring some of that darkness back with you. you can't just leave it there. So if you open the door a crack, some darkness is going to slip out.
Jonas hasn't been the same, you guys.
No, that movie gave me corona.
Oh,
I'll just go on a limb. It was shortly after. No, I think I watched it after I was already sick, but I'm going to say it did.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, and that's a good enough note to end on for me. I don't think I have anything else. We've taken up several hours of you guys' time.
So, you guys loved it all, though, didn't you?
I hope so. I hope somebody loved it. All those movies that we watched and that we just wanted to share with you guys.
Some good recommendations in there. If you guys need any personalized picks, as in picking out movies for you, not like selfies. If you guys want any personal picks.
He's signing photographs.
I'm gonna be at Knife Shift Con coming this summer.
Oh my god!
It'll be the only convention open. No, hey, what I was gonna say is if you guys want to hit us up on social media, I'm at McKeever Jonas. You can find me on Twitter. You can find our Knife Shift podcast Twitter. Yes, ours is at @knife_shift. You can find us there. Talk to either one of us.
And you can also find us on YouTube, The Knife Shift. We will be posting these and maybe some other content if we get around to it. This Corona stuff, this COVID lifts, that'll help. But also, I just want to throw this out there a little bit. We're going to do some research into it, but if anyone knows any loopholes or ways around sharing Reddit stories, scary stories, or anything like that are shared to the internet, we had some trouble contacting the people that make the posts, not getting any feedback on if we can use it or not.
A lot of them have throwaway accounts, so it's kind of hard. I think they might be doing that on purpose so nobody starts trying to steal their stuff.
Well, we don't want to use things that people don't want us to use, but we also, it sounds like fun. We want to do it. We want to share some scary stories with you guys.
Yeah, so open casting call. If you're a writer, send us something spooky, and you might just hear it on the channel one day.
Yeah, you want to write something yourself, that's great too. But right now we're just looking into the small details to make sure we don't get in trouble if we're going to share some stuff from online. But until then, I don't really have anything else, so...
No, I'm just wishing everybody the best. Hang in there. We're all going to make it through this thing on the other side.
Yeah. We're going to clock out.
This is Jonas, and I'm clocking out of the Knife Shift.
This is Jesse.
I'll see you guys later. Take care.
Clocking out.